Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
What's up, most excellent friends?
It's Chrissy and Nathan from the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast.
It's a podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian
And their most excellent guests
adventure their way through the 80s movies we think we love
or might have missed.
with our grown-up eyes to see how they hold up.
Join us for delightful discussion,
Rollicking recaps.
ratings, and deep-cut recommendations.
Plus, members get some extra fun chit-chat with the hosts after the show.
Download the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast today at truestory.fm.
Or find it wherever the finest podcasts are stored.
And do remember to keep the Most Excellent 80s Movies podcast motto in mind.
Be excellent to each other and...
Party on.
Party on, dudes.
Meet Zinnia.
You are being very polite to someone who is attempting to kill us.
Her wife Saffron.
You know I'm wildly, madly in love with you.
And their best friend Goldie.
Glad we didn't miss all the fun.
Swords in hand, they defend their city from the worst of humanity.
I am Lord Buxton Blue.
Equity Electric.
Herr Haig. Virgil Walcott. Vicious Swab.
Follow their adventures on the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society audio drama podcast. Available now at truestory.fm/swashbuckling.
Oh, there you are. I was hoping you'd make it. Come in, sit down. Welcome to the Story Well. If you've found your way here, then here is where you belong. Joining us at the table is actor, director, BJ Garrett. Thank you so much for coming on the Story Well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is cool and exciting.
I think we're going to make something really interesting. I think you're going to be surprised. So, in addition, you're another multi-hyphenate actor, director. When I had your sister wife, Shelley Trujillo, on the show, sorry, folks, inside joke, not actually real. They were in a show together. That's why. I asked her about becoming a director and what she looked for in that. So you've done that, but what I wanted to ask you specifically about is, in addition to the multi-hyphenates, you're also a creative director of Space 55. What is the official title?
The official title is artistic director.
Artistic director. Okay. So that is it's one thing when you're an actor, you kind of have to take what's offered to you. When you're a director, you can be more discerning. But then when you're at that role, when you're at that high up, you kind of have to the broader canvas. So I kind of wanted to get, how do you go about laying out a season? Like, how do you look for things that match up or don't match up?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. When we're putting together a season for Space 55, there's certain borderline criteria that we kind of put in place to really set parameters before you start looking at individual shows. We want to make sure that whatever we select to program fits our mission. Which our mission specifically is that we offer new, innovative, rarely seen, and or local theater in a casual environment at an affordable price. That's the parameters that we work in to start. So before we even start looking at how we want to order shows or what shows are on our menu to pick from for a season, we're automatically, you're not going to see Oklahoma at Space 55, right? You're not going to see Cats or Grease and those shows are fine. Like I always use the restaurant analogy. Like a Big Mac is a delicious treat, right? It's no shade on a Big Mac, but if I want a really good burger, that's not going to be the place that I go to get one. And that's not to say that a Big Mac's not good. Sometimes it hits the spot. And I'm probably going sideways a little bit here, but it's like, there's a place for that.
Sure.
As an artistic director, there's a component to, before you even selected the specific shows that you're going to put in the season, you want to make sure that you are meeting the mission of your theater. So for our theater, for Space 55, our mission is to present new, innovative, rarely seen, and or local theater in a casual environment at an affordable price. So that automatically excludes certain pieces from our repertoire, right? You're not going to see Grease. You're not going to see A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder or 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. And those are those are excellent shows. I love that type of theater. I go to that type of theater. So it's no shade on that. It's just not what we want to produce. We are more of the artisan burger versus like a Big Mac. A Big Mac is delicious when you want one. That is not what we produce. So the first
and
thing,
also there's a cost associated with those things too. It's like if you want to produce Oklahoma, if you want to produce Putnam County, like
100%
pay there. And so like, when you're trying to keep your margins low.
Yes. And to make it affordable for the audience, to make it affordable for us to produce all of the above. Yeah. There's a cost prohibition on tackling really big popular shows anyway. So you're automatically, as an artistic director, you're looking at a certain subset of available works to produce. You're looking at specific playwrights, specific styles, genres, things like that. And then once you kind of have an assortment of, say, okay, here are the 10 to 12 shows that we're interested in looking at producing here, you want to sort of create the right cadence, the right ups and downs. You want to make sure you're providing something that kind of touches on the taste buds of a diverse and dynamic audience, right? So, we'll do a show that really tackles some kind of like abstract concept, and then we might go to something that's a little bit lighter and more comedic and not necessarily going to tap into the inner recesses of a twisted mind, right? And then we go to something else that's maybe somewhere in the middle, and we just kind of want to, when you're looking at a play as a single play, there's rising action and, falling action and conflict and resolution and denouement and all that. A season of theater can kind of feel like the same thing, right? You want to open strong, you want to close strong. Sometimes you want to take a risk. Maybe you don't know if people are going to show up to that. So you're going to stick that somewhere in the middle, hopefully between two safer shows to capitalize on audience. And you got to get into this sort of, it's like playing a little bit of Tetris, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got this straight line 4 block that you can drop in and get rid of 4 rows, but you can't, you got to wait until you've got everything else lined up just right. And then you sling that one in, and then it satisfies in the whole season. Bloop, you've got your season together. So it's just a little bit of a Tetris game.
Do you look at time of year? Like when you're setting something, I mean, obviously you have to because scheduling a theater, but do you look at sort of what you think people be interested in? Like, oh, this is more edgy material. Maybe in November, December, they're not going to be as interested in that, or do you look more by the arc of the season versus the time of year that stuff will drop?
I think more the second than the first. There's certain things like, it's almost like process of elimination, right? If you have a show that's like a winter time show, either because it's a holiday show or because it sort of takes place at a certain time of year, like the whole Die Hard is a Christmas movie thing, right? Then you sort of like, okay, well, that's my December, November area. And then like, do I have anything that's spooky? Do I have anything that touches on the supernatural or the weird or the scary or the frightening? I'm probably going to try to put that somewhere in the fall to align with Halloween and spooky season, right? Usually when we do like we have a series called Night of the Chicken, which is a family-friendly radio play about a middle school cross-country captain who, whenever she gets really stressed out, angry, or upset, she turns into a were-chicken. And there's live sound effects and things like that. And that's more of a light-hearted romp, and I feel like kind of fits well in spring. That's more of a feeling, right? That's just like, that's all vibes, no thoughts. So yeah, there is a timing of the time of year, and is there anything happening around here? There's a show that you introduced me to a few years ago that we've sort of been sitting on and wanting to do, which is the Lost 3D Elvis movie, right? Which I still really want to produce. And we were originally going to put that show up during COVID. Obviously, we had a schedule before COVID hit, and we were planning on opening that show on January 8th of 2021 because January 8th is Elvis's birthday. So by kismet, serendipity, whatever, Elvis's birthday fell on a Friday in 2021. So it would have been perfect to bring this Elvis show out on his birthday. So sometimes it's just a little thing like that. So yeah, we do look at that. It's not, sometimes you just put up a show when you can put up a show, and this is the script that the one we want to do, and the right timing for the availability of the director or the availability of the playwright or the actors that you really have in mind. So you work around that too. It's all just kind of you're just juggling. You're just juggling and trying not to drop too many as you as you put something together and
Yeah,
make
well-
sure the whole time people are coming to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So, and speaking of putting something together, I think it's time we should put something together ourselves.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's make up a story. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I have some dice.
Okay.
First thing I'm going to do is decide what the format of our thing should be. So this could be book, movie, television show, and there also is wild card in there too. So we'll see what we come up with. It'd be appropriate if it was a play, but it's not. It is a film.
Okay.
So now we go.
Let's make a movie.
Let's make a movie. So let's see. Now we're going to do, okay, so next is genre. So I have a list of 20 genres. And then I'm going to do 2 because that sort of gives us more of a place to work with.
Okay.
You know, a comedy spy is different than a ghost story. So let's see. We rolled a 17, which is a suspense film. So
Okay.
anticipation. And then an 11, which is sci-fi. Okay, so a suspenseful sci-fi movie. Okay. Start thinking about that. Like, so it could be, so it could be, sci-fi could cover apocalyptic. It could cover, the future that never was, that Tomorrowland kind of vibe. And then it'll generate us a plot. So let's see. I'm using the Story Engine. So this is available at storyenginedeck.com. Not a sponsor, but I would be happy to take their money. Because I just got they just have their newest box came out, which is about creating lore, so you can like basically make your own magical artifacts or worlds and stuff too.
This is fascinating. I got to look into this.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is interesting already. Okay, so the plot actually comes very sci-fi suspense. I can kind of see already. So it says a twin wants to gain the power of a prototype, but it will gain the attention of their enemy.
A twin.
A twin. Yeah. The other options, and we're sort of allowed one swap if that twin part doesn't work for you. The other ones on that card are an imposter, a stand-in, or a doppelganger. So the idea of that sort of thing, it could be, like literally a twin, or it could be, if we're talking future, we're talking spacey sci-fi stuff. It could be a clone.
I was gonna say it feels very Blade Runner.
Yeah. Okay. So what your first thoughts? What starts coming to mind?
Well, suspense. It's funny because I was listening to some other episodes of this show, and I was thinking, I was listening to episodes where you were going back and talking about, shows and franchises that could stand to have a reboot and things like that. And so I was like actually churning stuff around in my head. So I heard sci-fi suspense, and my first thought that I went to was something like X-Files.
Oh yeah,
because that's my favorite show of all time.
Wow. Okay.
That show to me laid the groundwork for every other show with a long story arc that came after.
Yes. And like many sci-fi shows, had an unfortunate denouement.
Yeah, I didn't hate it as much as everybody else did. I think the tack on movies kind of were more harmful than the weird ending of season 9 of X-Files.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
Right. Yeah.
But
So that's a good question. So then what is the 21st century version of X-Files? Like, what does that look like? So we're staying in film. So let's say that this could be the start of a franchise or whatever too. But it's sort of like, this is our Adjustment Bureau, our Men in Black, or whatever, and then from there, we can continue on. But so, what was it that about X-Files that sort of appealed to you? Was it just the long hysteria thing? Was it the paranoia? Because that was a big thing of not trusting the government. That was a big part of that.
I think the fun thing to me about a franchise or a show like the X-Files is it's kind of the same thing as like Cabin in the Woods, right? It's this idea that these fun pieces of lore are all rooted in some reality that hasn't come to light. The alien arc of X-Files is always really interesting to me, but really the places where it's like, oh no, there are werewolves, there are vampires, there are these things. That's lore that just exists from anecdotal stories that have come down and been washed out by people dismissing it. So like, I think it's the more like the limitless possibilities of anything you can think of that's weird exists somewhere. And, kind of going back to like what the type of theater we produce, right? It's
right.
exploring the weird possibilities. So going back to
in Night Vale, like Welcome to Night Vale, the podcast. Like
I love Night Vale. Yeah.
One of their sort of tenets is, what if there was a place where all conspiracy theories were true? Yeah. And so that was so that I like that idea that there is a, not everything makes sense, but there is a hidden inner workings of things that don't quite. So are you thinking something contemporary? Like this would take place in 2025 or in the 2020s, or are you thinking something like the 1920s, like or even the 3020s?
I'm a very, very big fan of the contemporary when I create, because it's, to me, especially if you're exploring the weird, because and again, not to sidebar, but Michael Crichton, right? My favorite, one of my favorite authors of all time, because his work is very much based on real science that exists right now, and how that science could go sideways. And it's not based in the past. It's not based in like an alternate reality where something's real. It's all based on real research, real science, real, at least theory. It may not be plausible, but there's at least enough like scientific evidence to suggest that this is the path something could go. So I love the contemporary. So I think something modern is good.
Okay. So then I guess big questions then. What are the big things out there? I mean, if X-Files, it was a lot of like, the government is lying to us. They're covering things up, which I think at this point we were aware of.
Yeah.
That's not a revolutionary concept at this point. Yeah. Or into what are the bigger mysteries out there that you think that need to be dived into? I mean, you have things like The Authority, the comic book, which is about the hidden weird history of the world. The idea that there was like, essentially, what if the MCU happened and everyone just pretended it didn't? And so it's about this. They're sort of archaeologists who are discovering these things happened that no one remembers or believes,
like superhero type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's literally the plot of The Authority, is that all this stuff happened and it has been hidden. And so like they're going and they're finding like the bones of Godzilla. They're like, but Godzilla was real? They're like, well,
that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a fantastic comic series. I highly recommend it. But so I kind of like that idea of that there's a hidden history. Yeah. Something that, I've been playing there's an Indiana Jones game that's out now too.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that.
Having conversations about that and about Tomb Raider and stuff, and how, there's the thing that I'm getting to the point where it's like, I don't really like the white guy going into a foreign country and taking something precious away. Like,
very British Museum.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I don't want to be an agent of the British Museum. Like, like maybe the biggest thieves in the world. Like, but what's the other side of that? I haven't answered that question yet, but maybe this is something we could dig into, of like, what is the positive version of that? And I do like this sort of idea of digging into hidden history and something lost, or
what if you fix that, right? That you take all the things about an Indiana Jones or a Tomb Raider, which is like, we're gonna go where these ruins are, these catacombs, these hidden temples, and we're gonna extract this artifact that has magical powers, and it's gonna go sit in a warehouse in a box where no one can do it. What if you have like the opposite of that? What if you have somebody who is aware of all of these artifacts that exist in a government warehouse somewhere, and they like one by one like extract them from their governmental prison and restore them to their rightful catacomb, and like try to
unfortunately, you have just created Warehouse 13.
I need to watch more movies, Kyle.
I know. I'd say there's a television series that ran for a number of seasons that is exactly that story. So I'd say you're vibing. You're like catching right onto it. It was a very successful show, and I actually have the box set sitting right next to me because I just bought it. However, that does the interesting thing. As I look at like our thing about a twin wants to gain the power, what if we do go a little more from X-Files to Fringe? What about parallel universe?
Oh, so what about I love Fringe.
What about exploring a parallel universe? So the idea is that you'd have basically something, it's our world, but something went terribly wrong. So you're sort of adventuring into it to find something to solve a problem on ours. So you still have that, there's sort of a quest thing, but it's, instead of the multiverse, there is a parallel universe that they have somehow gotten access to.
So if you ruin everything, it's not like a Rick and Morty. Oh, well, we ruined that one, but there's infinite other universes, so it's fine. Like there's two.
Yes. Yeah, the idea that there's like that at some point something happened, and we don't even need to get into why. It's just like this is just how it is, or maybe that's the investigation part of it. That there are essentially there's sliding doors. There is a literal path not taken, but as opposed to every path that ever was taken, it's just for some reason there are two parallel tracks, and our hero can go into there. So. Because the idea is like that sort of takes away a lot of the cultural invasion part of it. Is it's sort of like, it's you're in New York, but you're going to the other New York,
right? So it's your own culture,
and everything is sort of on top of each other.
And I could see so many places to play something like that out, right?
Right.
You could have the. I don't know if we jumped all the way to like potential climaxes now, but I can see.
All right.
I could see the place where it's like you are in the alternate universe, right? And you get to, this is the moment where things went south in our universe, and I could fix our universe, but I would have to inflict the identical horrors onto the alternate universe to fix my own. And then you have that moment, right? Like, what do I do? Yeah. Do I do an entire universe to save my own?
Wow, that's pretty good. I was thinking about like who our enemy would be, and so what if you have this company that like there's I actually just watched an episode of a procedural, and it was one of the big things is they were smuggling sand. Apparently that's a big thing. There's like a whole market for sand.
This is this is real thing. This is a real.
It's a real thing. It's in our world, like to contemporary. There's a big hunger for like good sand, and so there's actually like a sand cartel. It's a whole thing. Like say go head to the World Wide Web. It's out there. It's weird, but. Imagine a company suddenly becomes gigantic because of something like that. I was just using that as the example of like post-apocalyptic. Then there's a lot of you'd think there'd be less sand. That was just made me think of it. But this company gets really big, and then we have our person who's sort of their whistleblower finds out because they're mining it from a destroyed reality, and so that's how they have unlimited resources because they're not pulling from our world. So it's that thing of. It's like you found a mine of gold. We just have to, or even right now, lithium batteries. Lithium batteries, great. Like let's save the planet and do that stuff. But the amount of work you have to do to get the lithium is almost as damaging as what it is to go and extract oil and petroleum.
Mm-hmm.
But these are bigger questions than me. I'm a writer. I'm not a scientist.
Right. I think to a degree when you're coming up with something is you have to suspend some of that awfulness of real life,
right,
to explore the concept, right?
Yeah, exactly. So then like suddenly this company becomes really profitable because they're extracting from somewhere else, and then maybe it turns out that it's like this. I don't want to get too time traveling, but like they extract everything from this thing, and they have to go, oh well, if we could just cause an apocalypse, that would make it so no one would be in the way to get that, and it could be that the sort of the working backwards thing of like they're the ones who caused this so that they would have access to whatever this resource is,
as opposed to we extracted all the resources and that caused the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting way to like turn that on its head a little bit.
Right. So like one way or the other. So we have a person who's working at this thinking they're working for like a good group who's doing some good work or whatever, and it turns out that they've done something dastardly.
And the thing that's really interesting about doing it that way, and again, not to dive too much into the horrors of the real world, right? Mm-hmm. But like at this exact moment in time, there is a real attention being paid to companies that are sort of ravaging the planet, right? Yeah. For like Nestle buying water rights and things like that, and like so I think that there's a general consensus that a lot of your CEOs of companies like this, if you were to say, hey, we could generate $1 billion in profit, we would have to ravage an entire universe, but it's not a universe we live in, so you'll never be negatively impacted. Like,
yeah,
I put betting odds.
Talk about a third world country. This is like an ultra reality country. Like, you don't think about what's the economic interest is doing to Brazil or whatever too, but like oh yeah, those are the people who don't even exist in this universe. So don't worry about them.
Yeah, worry even less because it's not even like you're impacting your own climate or your own.
Are they
ability
real people if they're not from our universe? You know?
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is like this has legs, Kyle. Like I think this has real. This is good. I mean, this isn't good. That because,
sure, right? Yeah,
but this idea, this is good.
Just for the middle, this is where we go. So I guess then, I would say, how do you want to go? Do you want to talk? You want to try and figure out who our main character is, or do you want to try and figure out more what the machinations of this corporation is, and then sort of work backwards? Where's your instincts leading you?
I feel like let's figure out what this company's doing.
Okay,
because I think because you have like for a protagonist for a story like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this an employee of the company who is this like a custodian at the company that's like cleaning out the CEO's trash can one day, and the CEO did not practice good clean desk protocol and put a company plan in this trash bin instead of the shred bin, and so like some custodian is going to like be the one to like save the day.
Well, it could be. But I like blue collar and I like low level. But I think maybe have it be okay. So let's say that the two parallel parallel realities. They don't have to be in sync time wise. So what if one is 6 months ahead? That we have sort of we have the twin. What if that person meets himself from the other thing, basically saying like stuff's about to go down and you need to do something about it? Because
is this person empowered to stop it? Like, is this having just for the show? Is this like an Ebenezer Scrooge thing where it's like?
I was thinking more like themselves. So like they're like a junior scientist who's about to make a big discovery, and so them almost 6 months from the future comes and goes, "You're about to wreck everything because I did."
Yeah.
Or is that too time cop? Like, is that too?
No, I don't think
too many hat on a hat. Is it too many scientific things at once? Is like
no, I don't think so. I think you could work with something like that, right? Because we're gonna yes and this for a second, right?
Sure.
Like let's employ the principles of not shutting down a path, and let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
So the alternate timeline is 6 months in the future. Scientist, presumably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like
finds a way
like
to the
fresh-faced, new, just joining this group with bright ideas. And
so is the idea now that the person is going to the other reality to say, don't do this in your reality because we screwed up our reality? Or is the goal is it to prevent the first reality from following the footsteps of the second? Or is it to fix the second reality?
I think it's that let's say that as companies have become global, what if this company has also become
multiversal?
Essentially, it's the same CEO, it's the same person running it in both, but they're essentially harvesting, Earth 2 for all the resources.
Oof. That is dystopian.
Yeah, but so it's not like there is no whatever this evil core. It only exists in this one. The other one, it never existed. They just like came over and were like, as soon as it was like, oh, we found another reality, let's immediately drain it of all the things that we want and make a profit on it.
So this is like,
so there is no there actually, so like all the fun stuff we want to do, the exploration and like how are things different, how are things the same. They're like, I don't care about any of that. I just know that they have silver, they have gold, they have clean water. Let's take it and sell it.
Yeah. Gosh, this is getting dark. This is like colonizing Mars. If Mars was like a full functional like planet with water and air and everything else, this is like,
but that's,
out of sight, out of mind, other universe.
Like that's see a resource, exploit it.
The free market is speaking.
Exactly. And so it's like, hey, all the laws about pollution don't apply over there.
No, that's right. Because they've experienced an entirely different trajectory. They may not be the same technology or anything. And that could be, part of the resolution of this, right? Is like they never bothered to learn all this stuff, and the stuff they never bothered to learn is when we get to the end is what maybe like, saves the day. Kind of like War of the Worlds, where like they're about to like take over the planet and our bacteria kills them all.
Right. Right. It's like it's like what if everybody just stayed where they were? Like what if instead of like, colonizing and spreading around the world, everybody say, so like when you have, it's wherever you go, just the people who are there are just there. Like they just didn't ever migrate, so then you have less travel. You have less, you don't have airplanes and actually, I don't know if that's too far off of our thing of like, a thriller, suspense. Like we have to sort of keep this more glass ceilings and people wearing suits and running in, as opposed to like exploring jungles.
Yeah. Okay, so what's our full plot role again?
Okay, we have a twin wants to gain the power of a prototype, but it will gain the attention of their enemy. So prototype, I guess, meaning whatever our MacGuffin is. So the whatever the thing, the device, like if there's some kind of a thing that allows travel between the two of them, like so if you stop the pipeline, then you stop the thing happening. And of course, a lot of powerful people would be against that, so that you could have that race of I have the dingus, I have the MacGuffin, I have the thing, and I have to get away, or it's destroying it to stop this from continuing on. But then you get the moral question of like, oh well, but it is, we do need clean water, we do need all these things, like it's we need them.
Yeah, what if this takes place in a timeline where there is no clean water left in our universe?
Yeah.
Or on our planet, right?
Yeah.
So this is an us versus the other universe proposition without either a miraculous invention. Oh, what moral quandaries we pose.
Right. And then have to answer. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, are you thinking more like, like a Tale of Two Cities sort of like, them versus us thing, or essentially like a Pangea, like they go in and there's nothing. It's just, it literally is like a unexplored wilderness. Like it is just like people didn't really make it out of the Ice Age.
I think
it's a lost world sort of thing.
I think you're going to have the best impact to your audience and the best moral quandary of this if the people if the other universe feels very similar to our own.
Okay.
Right. If the other universe is primal or primordial or unevolved or desolate or unpopulated or whatever, then I think it becomes very easy to be like, well, there's just, that's just a whole new universe of resources that we can use without really hurting anybody. But if that's like a full on planet with people and lives and careers and families and everything else, maybe it's not working the same as ours does, but it's a fully functional society, and our efforts are draining that, where there's a real impact to people.
I think I might have just got it.
Okay, what do we got?
We're being drained. Like that is what they discovered. It's like we've been doing this all as like our side is the ones who are pulling out it. What if we're the ones being drained? What if the reason that things are going badly is because someone did this to us? Oh. So now, like our side, it's the same. Everything is the same.
Yeah.
But our hero is the one who goes, "Oh, this is why the ocean is being filled with garbage. They're dumping their garbage in our ocean. This is why there's so much pollution, is because they're sending their pollution to us."
Yeah.
And it's the same thing of like, there's the same multiversal evil core or whatever, but it's from that side. So like, they're not interested in invading. They're not interested in taking over because things are going great. They just want to keep things going great. So it's the dark side of Star Trek. They have a pretty good utopia going, but now they're running out of the resources. And so they've just found this parallel timeline and they're doing it. And we're the parallel timeline. We are Earth 2.
I mean, it definitely makes it easier to be the protagonist when you're the one under duress, right?
Yeah. So we still, same thing. Our guy discovers it, but then he's the one who, it turns out that it's like things are going and not doing it. It could be just as simple as a math thing of like the numbers aren't adding up in terms of like, we should have more of X, Y, and Z, and like where is all this stuff going? It should be as simple as matter like it could be just an accountant or whatever. It's a low level thing of like the numbers are all lower,
or like everybody's been under a drought for decades, right? Like, how is this possible? Like, water recycles in our systems, and like, yes, cities are bigger, but like, where is the water going that's causing there to be drought all over the planet? Oh, the water is literally being sapped away from our world.
Yeah, or because like those
universal osmosis.
Yeah, or even the opposite of like, why are the oceans rising? Because they're dumping their industrial hot water into our ocean, and that's what's causing climate change.
Oh my gosh, yeah, okay.
So just blame it on the other guy. I mean, like, that's the idea, is that it is still humans, it is still people. It's just they're like it's our Earth to us is the third world country that all their garbage is being dumped onto.
Yes. Now
we are the trash pile.
We are the trash
in the
pile.
ocean.
Now here's the question we have to answer at some point.
Yes.
In this story is who here knows that that's happening,
right?
And is allowing it, or is the entire world unknowingly being plundered, or is there a company here that's like selling off our clean air and water rights to the like that is negotiated, some CEO, some Lex Luthor type like secret organization who is like making an arrangement with that, holding up our end of the multi-dimensional portal, like keeping the operation on our side so they can do this while they enrich themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it's like somebody from that side. So it's like that foreign billionaire, except it's a really foreign billionaire because they're not from our reality. And so it's that same thing of like they're maybe like it's so different that the reason that our hero is unique is that there are no doubles except for this person.
Oh, so this person is the only person who has
somehow
an identical counterpart.
Right. And that makes them unique. And so that's why they can suddenly sort of make contact or something. Like I was trying to make in the, I don't have to be the most special boy in the whole universe. Like, I'm not interested in chosen one or it's in the blood or any of that kind of stuff, but some kind of weird quirk of the universe makes it so that they have it. So you can have a sort of a buddy. I mean, I don't want to get too much into Gemini Man, but like you can have a team up with yourself, or it's literally like, I present you the information and then I die. And then our hero sees themselves die and that spurs them into action.
Yeah. Well, I do like the idea of it being a unique person as opposed to like we all have a different version of ourselves in the other universe. I feel like that's a very overdone trope anyway. I've seen it in Star Trek. I've seen it in Fringe, and they both did it well enough.
Right. And I don't want to, it's like you've done that. I don't want to step on your toes and try and do a bad version of what you already did. I'd rather try and sort of navigate a new path.
I mean, I would be interested in seeing a world where every single person in that world looks just like us, except they have a goatee.
I mean, Star Trek, there's a reason the mirror universe works, like you want to see the good / bad version of all these things.
But like that's the thing about this story too, is that the story that we're sort of crafting here isn't really based on like a good or an evil version of our world.
Right.
It is, it's almost like if our world would have been in this position and could have figured it out first, maybe we would have been doing the same thing.
Honestly,
right?
Yeah.
If they're doing it first.
Yeah. They got there first. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like
so
that.
Yeah. So, okay. So our twin.
Yes.
Our person who is in both universes in some way, is that a weird like from birth there is just a doppelganger and this is the only one, or is there like, or was like the creation of the portal, did that like spawn like the person who was like the scientist who was building the portal? Like
I guess it depends on how intermingled you want to get, but Elvis was a twin, like his twin brother died. So what if this is like on either side of this line are twins, and in either reality, the other one died. So it's like you could have fraternal twins, you could have whatever kind of. You don't have to have it be identical twins. You could have a brother sister, or any kind of combinations of two, and each of them mourns the loss of the other one, and now they show up again. So you can, as opposed to doing the whole doubling of a person, you have it's a different person, but it's someone that you always thought would be there and wasn't, and now is back, but they're not. It can just some, crunchy familial sort of like connection in things. Is that, or once again, have I gotten too complex for?
I feel like that's a whole
sci-fi.
other plot. Yeah, that's like a whole other. That's a whole other thing, right? Because then you've got this like angle of like this other universe, and also everybody over there is a twin, but also
no. I'm thinking literally just this. Like for whatever reason, like the weird quirk of it was that one. But we can let's say that doesn't have to be where we go. I was just thinking, as opposed to being like, our rugged hero and his wife died and now she's back, but she's not the same like that. I'm like, I feel like I've seen that 100 times. Plus the whole, like, it's like you're saying, it's you, but with a goatee. Like I've seen that 100 times. I'm trying to find some other version of the twin, the double, the doppelganger that hasn't been done as much.
Okay, here we go. I've got something.
Okay, hit it.
Highly implausible.
Sure. The starting from a point of highly implausible is great, because after that we can run.
Okay, here we go. You ready for this? This is gonna go off the rails quickly.
Okay.
Guy is minding his own business, and he gets pulled into a limousine in an emergency by men in suits with sunglasses. Very confusing thing.
Sure.
Because they think he is the CEO of this company that is giving the rights to the other universe. And he's actually a twin that did not know that his twin existed. And so he gets pulled in, and he is oblivious, like, works at the pet store sort of guy.
Yeah.
And is made aware through entirely accident that this is happening to our world. This is why everything in our world is failing us, because our world is being plundered by another corporation. And there's a company here that is basically selling the rights to our world off to this company.
Yeah.
And because he's been mistaken as like the CEO, maybe he's a biological twin who got lost, separated at birth. Maybe there's something else. I don't know. But he is mistaken, right? Maybe he's not even an actual twin. Maybe he's just a guy who looks a lot like the guy in wrong place, wrong time. But he gets pulled into this world of like, hey, boss, there's a problem. We found out that like our world is like less than 5 years away from a complete collapse because we've sold so many of these. We've sold so much of our clean air and water away, or exchanged it with so much slime and filth or whatever. And so this guy is like the unintended. He's the only reason we ever find out about this and ultimately save the day is because of a mistaken identity. Where they like get an emergency, they need to find the CEO, and they go like.
I think you know what I think we have to call an audible on this and say this is a television series. I don't see like everything. I keep trying to bend this into 2 hours, and this is not 2. This is 10 hours. Like this is a huge thing. I think let's say this is a television show because it feels much more like a television show at this point. Because
I mean, like back to your Fringe.
Expand it out, it really feels like we could do a lot of that kind of stuff because you don't have to introduce 10 sci-fi concepts in the course of 40 minutes, then go, okay, got it,
right?
Let's
and
go.
all these concepts can coexist.
Yes.
Space, and as again, back to your analogy earlier of Fringe, right? It's like every season of Fringe added a new layer to this like the first season you really don't even learn about the parallel universes in Fringe until the very end. The second season is when you start to learn about like the comings and goings, but like you don't get to the observers until like season 2 or 3, and then you got like the Amber and all that stuff with and William Bell and like
I like that. Okay, so I like, just because now we can get a little bit more complicated. Let me take that and then spit it out even further.
Yeah.
So essentially like that's Prince and the Pauper, right? Like you have the two that are, for whatever reason, look identical and you can switch places. But what if the reason we find out is that it's free range clone? So the idea is this person has cloned themselves, but rather than keep them on the box, or they just like introduce them into society and just have them going about their life. And at some point they will use them to harvest for organs, or, you know, even like a whole transplant or whatever, you know, like essentially like they're the clone, they're the spare, but rather than paying all the time and money to like keep in a vault or whatever, they just had them adopted and they're just going about their life.
Oh my gosh. I just had this thing pop into my head, and I feel like I'm just carrying this into like a realm of ridiculousness, but I'm getting really excited about it. So I have to share it, and then we can immediately discard it. What if a scientist comes up with this, their ultimate goal is like infinite expansion of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So he clones himself several different ways and sends all, like you said, free range, right? Sends all these clones out into existence with the ultimate intention to recollect them at some point and re-merge them with all of their shared experience and knowledge. So he basically gains like the knowledge of 200 people, right? And now he's got all these different educations, all these different life experiences to basically become like somebody who knows everything about every region, every corner of the world, everything. And one of those guys, when he goes to recollect them all, one of those guys is the guy who is related to this parallel universe thing. Like he's part of the company. He traveled to the other universe, something like, and so this guy who ultimately was seeking an expansion of knowledge discovers like one of his free range clones. See, this is, as I was saying this, like, oh my gosh, if I was in a pitch room right now at Netflix,
you'd be like, well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah. Well, there's medications on the counter on your way out. And please do not call us. We will call you.
Yeah. Well, but I guess we don't. Okay, so if it's a television series, and so we're expanding out, and the idea, like X-Files, is that answers will be a long time coming. Like let's say that we're not going to try and resolve everything in 9 episodes, like, you know, because Netflix is going to cancel us. Let's say that we know that we're going to be given some leeway and stuff. Then that means we don't have to answer everything, but let's hone in and sort of ball rolling where it is. So I still like the idea of us being the dumping ground for a parallel realities.
Me too.
Garbage like that they are doing it and being over there. I'm still trying to figure out what it is about our hero that makes a difference, and why are they allowed to sort of act when anyone with these kind of resources would do that. So maybe that's one of the mysteries, is why aren't they being killed for looking into these things? And then down the line, we'll find out it is one of those things. It is like you're the clone of the thing that we're keeping around, or you're meant to gather information and eventually be real. You're not really a person, like that sort of thing. I kind of like that, the part of that, because I like the idea that there are others like him out there. So that sort of the Fox Mulder thing of like, there are other believers. So the idea is that there's something different. And like, it's that thing of, I'm built different. You know, like there's something different about me, but then you find out there are other people who are also different as well. And what does that mean? And so all these are people who came from this other reality, who were put here for a reason. And now they're finding each other, which is not a good thing for the corporation.
Oh, I like that.
But they're also valuable, so they're not going to be killed. So they're being allowed some leeway, as much as corporate, like they're it's that same thing of like, they're highly connected, but they're not infinitely connected. They're not just going to disappear you because of something about you is valuable more than your value is more than the questions that you're asking, the cost that comes along with. So it's like they're being allowed to do this because down the line, they're like letting the dividend will come back. Ooh, dividend. That might be a good title.
That is a good title. Feels very, because then that's a play on words, right? Because you've got divide, right, built in, but then you've got like the return on investment from the corporation side.
Yeah, it could even be that there is some sort of genetic quirk. That's sort of what you find out. There's something in there, and then that leads on to, maybe it's, as opposed to like spreading your bets around, like, okay, so this a person is keeping themselves alive by doing this stuff. Like, okay, it doesn't make sense to have heart and lungs and stomach all in one body, because what if they get hit by a car? So you have it in multiple things. So you have multiple backups.
Oh, yeah.
So biological backups. Like, that's what these people are. So they're worth something to the most powerful person in this corporation. So it's like they're worth a little bit of trouble because, there's still an actual thing to be going. So you have the dark side of utopia. Like, that's the thing, is you have this idea of this, like, you think that when they cross over, it's going to be Blade Runner, but when they cross over, it's Star Trek. Like, the other side is so beautiful and so perfect.
Yeah. It's utopia, because they're exporting all of their awfulness to us.
Yes. That's really good.
It's like the detoxifying episode of Rick and Morty.
There's a couple. I'm like, okay, there's a couple things that come to mind. I'm like, okay, I want to steer away from that. Okay, so let's talk a little about our main character then, because we haven't really to sort of figure out who they are and why it is they're going about this. So, the problem is they could be anywhere and doing anything, but it's like there's a lot of things that are kind of passe at this point. So, like, the idea of like the government agent kind of feels like it's been. I feel like the reporter thing has kind of been done, but I don't know where else it would be. Someone who could be interested in stuff and asking questions without being a podcaster, which I think even now is starting to feel a little trite as someone who is a podcaster.
Okay,
who is our person that is going to be asking these questions and traveling around, maybe out of their depth, which that's fine. They don't have to be like a secret agent or anything, but like.
Well, so going back to your idea that these people are like potential, like, duplicative transplants, whatever they are, of like organs for preservation purposes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, one of them is a scientist.
Yeah.
And it needs to be brought over for, use.
Yeah.
Your pancreas is in this scientist.
Yeah.
And you get brought over, like, this is really, again, Netflix may kick me out of the room. You bring the scientist over, and the scientist like discovers like, oh my gosh, this is like something I've been like, or maybe they're not a scientist. Maybe they're just somebody who's like, has always been really passionately interested in like quantum theory, right? And they're like, they actually are like a farmer or something that you wouldn't think has that knowledge base, which means like the company in the other universe is like not really like super like worried about them being a problem, right?
Okay, all right. I think I have. Okay, so see if this is too far off from what you're saying. Like, okay, so I see we open and our lead character is an organic farmer.
Yeah.
So she lives in the city, but she's like like trying to take urban spaces and make them into sustainable green like spaces. Like trying, like, hey, nobody's using this lot. Why can't we just make it into a communal garden? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then, and it seems like they're just a brown and crunchy sort of like save the earth man kind of stuff. But it turns out they actually had gone to college to study biotechnology or whatever, and then learned all the terrible things that were going on and went, no, I actually want to help people. I don't want to make a smarter potato. And so now they're acting locally. And so you have this person, and they're just going about their life doing their stuff. But what she wants more than anything else is to have a kid. So she goes in and has tests done to see, like, because I'm adopted, I don't know anything about my family. Like, what are the genetic things I need to worry about? And finds something. They find something they can't explain. There's some kind of something in the DNA.
I like this.
And that leads her to somebody else with it. And then they're sort of like have this. It's sort of, you almost becomes like this a little bit of Orphan Black, but like essentially it leads to someone else who has this that is totally different and like probably even ethnically different, like completely different. Like, why are we? There's no way we could be related because like your ancestors came from some completely different thing, But there's something, and then maybe they become friends with this person, trying to figure out what's going on, and that person then disappears, and it was because they were pulled in to be harvested or
yeah.
And so that leads them on this path of like, where did they work? Maybe so like it turns out like maybe you're finding the wrong file thing. That was this person and they got pulled. And so now you have this person who is a smart person who is, community activated and stuff too, but not a spy, not kicking butt, but then is asking these questions and is now digging into this stuff. Is super intelligent, but now is putting that out in a questing kind of way to look for something.
Yeah. So how do they find this company? How do they find?
Yeah, exactly. So that's idea. That's like that's episode 2, it's episode 3, it's episode 4. Like it's but yeah, that's the idea is that like this is the big idea, and then how they stop them. Well, that's season 4 problem. I know we'll get to that when.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just sort of stretching out the mystery,
the premise, right?
Yeah. Why? Like, what is it? Like, what did they find? Like, is it because I discovered this? Is this why it happened? Is this why this person was taken? And then trying to track down people who have this and figure out what the connection between all of them is, which then keeps leading back to this corporation, which is everywhere. Like, it's the by and large from Wall-E. It's, their stuff is everywhere because they're making profit because they can make stuff out of nowhere.
So, okay, thinking about again let's bring a little reality.
They could be a big green company. You think that that's what their thing is, that maybe that's what connects them to her.
I think about like, so here, right, in our very real life, you have like BlackRock, right? Mm-hmm. This company that has a massive amount of shares in basically everything, right? BlackRock owns cereal, they own food, they own cleaning supplies, they own shares of all this stuff because they're an investment firm, right? Like they're not like the company that makes it. They're just an investment firm, but they have massive ownership stakes in all of these different companies. Like what if this company has like ownership stakes in all of these different pieces of the supply chain and everything else because of this whole like draining of resources. Mm-hmm. There's the way that they're so ubiquitous and can touch so many different areas of the globe and so many people, right? And maintain eyes on their organs, or
Yeah, it gets a little bit into. There's a little bit of Jupiter ascendant. There's a little bit of that in there too that I would steer because people really like that movie, so I don't get too far into that thing. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea of like we're better to store your stuff than it's as opposed to veal. Like you're free range.
Oh gosh, what a way to think of us,
right? Yeah, but I think that's what comes down to. That's the evil part of it is that these like the people from the Earth One don't even really consider themselves to be of the same, even though genetically identical. But because they're from everything, they don't even think of us as people. We're livestock.
We're free range.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I like this.
Yeah.
So what's the prototype?
Prototype of
from our plot.
Oh, what's the prototype? Oh yeah. I guess that's a good question. Like what's the thing that sets all this in motion is like maybe she gets her hands on something that will proves that that, or like it doesn't know exactly what it is, but like essentially this is the thing that is from the other reality. It doesn't like maybe it has a different I don't know. Is it like a piece of evidence that doesn't really make sense to anybody else because it has like a different scientific, like a half-life, like a radiation or whatever too. Like this thing, it looks like it comes from space. Like it doesn't have it, like everything on Earth has radiation on it. It's just like, bananas are radioactive. Like it's just a thing, but this doesn't.
Well, what if,
so it's like by the lack.
What if our organic farmer is about to be extracted? Right.
Yeah.
For purpose of like, okay, well, she's got the part that, they need. So we go to extract this free range human and she somehow eludes her attacker.
Yeah. And run.
But in the process of eluding the attacker, she obtains the tech that they would use to like bring her over or extract her back to the other universe. So there's like a multiversal extractor unit, right? This is what's going to pull her over. And so she's like, what the heck is this piece of equipment that guy was going to attack me with? And she goes to all these different places. She's like, can anybody tell me what this is? And she tries to study it. And then maybe she brings it to a store where somebody at that store is in cahoots with the company and they make a call like, hey boss, like, you might want to know about this. Like one of these is out loose over here. We've got cleanup duty.
Right. And then you can even have the company man show up and be like, I'm going to make this real simple. But then it could also be that if she's on the run with this and then gathering allies and information and they can't use the resources of the state against her, because then that shows that she's valuable. So there's a little bit of that leeway of like, you're the fugitive, but the police aren't hunting you and the FBI aren't hunting you. This other group is hunting you, but they can't cause too much of a scene. So you kind of have that narrow path that you can walk for a television series where it's like, why don't they just kill her? It's like, oh, well, there's a reason. Like, why don't they just arrest her? Then they can just take her. Like, oh, they can't, because then it's too high profile. She gets noticed and then they don't want that.
Yeah.
So then there's your like narrow path that you're walking, as saying like, you can go this far, you can go that far, but you can't go any farther because both sides, she exists in the gap between the evil corporation and the state.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's in the margins. So yeah, she's in the margins all the way through. So she's dealing with people who are marginalized. So because she has to exist in that quasi space sort of between, say, so it's criminals and homeless and all that stuff, like in that gap that no one likes to look at.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Good. I want
to watch the show now.
this like suddenly like certain things are bringing this all together in a really like interesting way. I'm like, it was like if somebody was to tell me about this show, I'd be like, all right, what's the name of it? Where can I stream it?
Right, exactly. What's on? I mean, like, obviously, oddly enough, the show usually ends with figuring out what the title is, but I think Dividend is pretty good.
I like Dividend, and you could do it even in a clever way where it's like in between the second D and end, there's like a slash, like face off, like divid.
Oh yeah.
And then you got
dividend,
the divide.
Is it the dividend or is it dividends? Or do you think just dividend?
I think just dividend.
I think too, because you probably do that reversed D thing to make the nice logo.
Yeah.
Whereas
and then you get
the
the
design of the thing with the.
And of course, since it's a company, profit, dividend. Also, they go extract people.
Yeah.
So like that's the end of people's lives. So you got like the end part of dividend is like deliberately flashed off, like, divid/end, like face off type thing to like give it like, oh, this is a multifaceted title that can mean a couple of different things. Also the divide part of the two universes. So you got dividends of the company, ending people, and the division of the universes all in dividend. Yeah. Ooh, what a title.
Right. Yeah. All right, I like it. All right, so there you go, everybody. So if you are inspired by this and want to make it, maybe you do see it as a film. Maybe you see it as a series of novels. Whatever it is, like, congratulations, it's yours. We are giving this idea away. So anyone who wants to can take the idea of Dividend and take it wherever you'd like. And we're releasing it under Creative Commons attribution. All we ask is that you link it back to us so that we can read it, because we are as excited as you are about finding out what happens next.
And if it could be staged, let us know and we'll put it up at Space 55.
That's right. Yeah, so we can figure out how to do it as a play. Look at that. You already got a venue. All you got to do is write it. So we're interested to see sort of what will become of this, and maybe Mr. Garrett himself will be inspired to put pen to paper. And
I've always said I have one story in me. Maybe I just
maybe
I sputtered my way through some concept of it.
So, BJ, thank you so much for coming to the Story Well and making up a dark techno thriller series, a new X-Files.
Yeah,
new millennium.
Thanks for having me. This is a blast. I hope I can do this again sometime. This is now that I kind of got the hang of this, like now I want to keep going. I want to keep riffing. Yeah. So let's do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're welcome anytime. Well, the stories won't write themselves, so back into the world we must go. Thank you for stopping by. If you're in this part of the world again, there will always be a place for you here at the Story Well. Now, go tell your story. I get the idea, but putting this many popular search terms in one ad is... No, I'll do it. This is Kyle from TrueStory.fm, and I'm here to encourage you to become a supporter of our shows. You'll marvel at what a great deal it is from here to DC. If it's your election to pay just $5 a fortnight, you can get early access to ad-free episodes plus bonus content made just for members. Why, that's less than an espresso. You'll be a star. Wars have been fought over less amazing treasure. You look nice. Did you get a new tailor? Swiftly head over to truestory.fm/join to find out how you can become a member. It's a great place to be, your own personal pink pony club. Well, it's time for me to say goodbye when I'd rather say hello, kitty. Is that what you wanted?